All right, welcome to Behind the Lens. Today, Denis Villeneuve. Thanks for coming in. Denis was just nominated for an Oscar last year for Arrival, and you've made so many interesting movies in the last few years. But I want to start with Blade Runner 2049 because this is more of your venturing into sci-fi territory, into science fiction, which you seem to have a real unique interest in now, a cinematic.
No, but it's an interest. I've been interested by science fiction since a long time. I mean, I was raised with. I was born in science fiction. I mean, it's like, which is almost true. I was born nearby a nuclear power plant. It's true at the beginning of early in my life through graphic novels, novels and cinema. It's a genre that really I felt in love with. And I was my dream to do cinema was linked with science fiction. Very early on in the movies, I loved at that period of time, like Blade Runner 2001 or The Close Encounter of the Third Kind. You know,
Oh yeah.
the original Planet of the Apes. All those movies were like the movie that filled my dreams and I took a detour through drama, but I was dreaming to do science fiction since a long time.
So all those earlier films, all the other movies where you were just preparing yourself to get to the real passion that you have to explore this area?
It's not that there was a plan. It's just that I had, let's say that I had to. I'm someone who I love drama too. I mean, I love different genre, but it's just that I needed a certain freedom to. I'm talking not about outside of me. I'm not talking about the industry. I'm not talking about. I'm talking about myself to allow me to go there, to go back there. I needed. It took me time before I gave me the permission to try.
Yeah, and look what happened when you did Arrival, and it was so well received, yet it is not your typical, if you want to put it in that genre, sci-fi alien thing, even though we deal with aliens in it. It's a very different feel for a movie like that.
Yeah, the thing
and
is,
it's particularly one that's coming out of a major studio.
the thing is that it's two things. It came out of a major studio, but it was produced in a very independent way. I felt in love with the story specifically because it was different, because it was saying something that, in a way, I haven't seen before. If people, I really encourage people to go to see the short story from Ted Chiang, The Story of Your Life. It's a little gem of literature. It's really a powerful piece of work, piece of art, and I just felt in love with it, and it's rare that you have the chance to be in front of stories like that. I was looking for stories like that since decades, you know.
Yeah, and to be able to do it, and at this point you had done some very successful movies, so they would give you the kind of budget you need to do this, even if it is being made independently. Arrival is all powered by that face of Amy Adams, which is what I
Exactly.
love.
The biggest special effects of this movie is
Right?
Amy
Well,
Adams.
that's humans that you put in these.
Exactly. As I always, when I read the screenplay, I had Amy in mind. She's the only actress we approached. She said yes right away. That was my first. She said yes very quickly. She loved the screenplay, and honestly, the movie owes her everything. I mean, we believe about those creatures coming out of space through her eyes. She's dealing, as an actress, she's dealing with several layers of time and meanings and different kind of emotions in each scene. It was very complex to do. She did that. It felt easy when you look at her acting, but I knew as a director that it was very complex from an intellectual point of view, what she had to do, and she nailed it. And honestly, there will be all the success of our Arrival is on Amy's shoulder for me.
Yeah, and in sci-fi, and I can tell by the films you mentioned, particularly 2001, Kubrick's 2001, there's so many deep ideas that you can delve into here. And take a movie like that was 50 years ago, next year.
Yeah.
50th anniversary of 2001, and it seems more pertinent, more lively, more
It's
now
it's
than
it's
ever?
it's a movie that was ahead of its time, and it's still totally impressive today, from all aspects. You know, from ideas, which are the most important, but also from a technical point of view.
Yeah.
It still holds perfectly in the big screen. It's a masterpiece. I mean, it's still probably the best sci-fi film ever made, or one of the best, for me, one of the best movies ever made, because it's a perfect adequation between sound and images, and the power of a cinema, as we are rarely seen. Yeah.
Now, you said that Blade Runner was one of your favorites too.
Yeah, it's
How
true.
intimidated were you when they came to you, or when this idea came to do this follow-up, whatever you want
But
to call it?
the first thing is that when I got the screenplay in front of me, they said to me, that's the Blade Runner screenplay, because it had a different title. So it said that my first thought, there's two things. First, I was sincerely moved that they will trusting me enough to think a second that I could do this. I was like, wow, that's a big compliment. The second thing, I was devoured by curiosity, because I thought it was such a arrogant and insane and beautiful but bad idea in the same time, to try to do a sequel to the original Blade Runner, you know,
Yeah.
which is yes, one of my favorite films. And reading the screenplay, I totally understood where Ridley wanted to go. I understood it had the same kind of poetry, the same kind of strain, the same raising, the same, again, beautiful questions, and I felt that our reality getting closer to that year 2019, with and having a different relationship today with technology that we used to have in the 80s. I thought it was relevant to do a second one. Yeah.
Yeah. And you have Ridley Scott, who obviously directed the original, as a producer, executive producer on this. So obviously he's there for someone to talk to.
Yeah,
And
the thing is that he was there a lot and not a lot, for the best. I mean, he was there a lot because I was dealing with his screenplay. You know, I was dealing with his ideas. I was dealing with his universe, with his characters. I mean, so I was thinking about Ridley all the time.
Yeah.
I had as a responsibility to respect, to honor the legacy of the original movie. Now, he told me right at the start that he will give me all the space, all the freedom. He will step away. That will be my responsibility, and that if I needed him, he would be at the other end of the line. But otherwise, I will be alone. And that for me was the best gift I could receive, because I would have never been able to work with Ridley behind me. I mean. He came on set one day, and after a few minutes having him behind me, it was unbearable. I made a joke I said to him, "Hey, really, who's your favorite director? Who is your favorite?" And he said, "Oh, I love Ingmar Bergman. And Kubrick, but Bergman." I said, "Oh, I love Bergman too." I said, "So Ridley, how you feel if you were on set directing and you had Bergman just behind you?" And then he burst in laughing, you know, and he walked out of the set. Because me, I was like trying to direct Harrison Ford, and I was like, no, it doesn't work. I cannot work with them. But no, he was very generous and very supportive, and gave me good advices when I needed it.
The nickel is for the colonial ships. Closest any of them or any of us is gonna get to that grand life off-world. So come on now. What sort do you have in mind? Because I got all kinds.
I'm not buying.
No. This is just my game, and I play it fair. No. I mean, bigger than you. Bigger than you were trying to shut me down. Bigger than you, and they were men at that.
Roger Deakins did such extraordinary work with you as a cinematographer, but tops himself with Blade Runner. I mean, the look, that world, you obviously collaborating with him on, but getting that look is he's topped himself here.
I'm happy you're saying so because I think the same. I think it's one of his best work by far, and I think that I tried to make sure that Roger will add all the tools and the space necessary to create what we had dreamed together. He's someone that is very bound to the nature of light, to the logic of light. But this time he had to play God, you know, because in Blade Runner the light is used in an expressionist way, so he had to design light patterns like he never did before. I feel, and I thought that is one of his most beautiful work. The light in the movie works to create atmospheres, of course, but also it's a part of the storytelling and in some ways. And for me, it was a privilege again to see him work, and I'm very proud of how the movie looks.
Yeah, that light all through the smog and the snow and everything else in this movie, it shines through, though. It's there. There's still that hope in this one, too.
Yeah, it was one of my objective goal, one of my goals, to make sure that through that darkness there will find still beauty, and despite the way the world seems to collapse in Blade Runner 2049, you still have sparks of poetry and beauty. Yeah.
In many of your films, some people might use the word bleak. There is a darkness that is a through line in a lot of the films that I've seen of yours, and I've seen all of the ones you've done since Enchantés. I got to catch up with a couple of the earlier films out of Canada.
I will not recommend. No, you don't have to.
Really?
No, but it's just that it's like I will say we can talk about that, but it's for me as a filmmaker, it's tough to look at the work you did in the past. Sometimes it's like seeing you. It's like seeing pictures of yourself when you were a teenager. It's not always good pictures. Okay.
Yeah, so you don't want to see your earlier work. You don't revisit it.
It can be painful sometimes.
In terms of Prisoners, which is just an extraordinary thriller, all the way through to Blade Runner, there's bleakness, there's darkness, but there's still something you can walk away where you don't want to slit your wrist. You give a little bit of hope in your film.
I don't have the choice. I mean, it's like the world. The movies are mirrors of reality. I think it's like. The world is intense right now. As a filmmaker, I'm digesting reality, and I try to put it on screen in some ways or the other. But I need hope. I need beauty. I need poetry. I need I need it for my own sake, you know. And by the way, it was very important for me to. I will have never been able to do Sicario without knowing I was doing Arrival. Because I needed the light of Arrival. I needed that. I cannot be cynical. It's the world is too intense. I need to have hope. Yeah.
Is it true you're going to do a new version of Dune?
The thing is that for me, it's not it has nothing to do with remake or reboot. It's like a new adaptation of the book. I have to go back to the book, and Dune is a book that I loved since I'm very young. It's one of my favorite books. It's a book that I love old ideas, meaning ideas that I know that went through time, and I'm still deeply passionate about that universe after 35 years. So it means it's worth to bring it to work for it. And David Lynch's movie is, don't get me wrong, David Lynch is a master, one of the strongest cinema filmmaker of all time, and I have massive respects for him, but the movie he made, despite all these qualities, was not the Dune I had in mind when I read it. And I have the arrogance to think that I can try to do something closer to my dream. That's what I will say, yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, Denis.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.